Hello students, welcome to the lecture on staffing, and after this lecture we will be able to learn the following objectives: explain the human resource management, discuss the staffing process and define the training and development. Let us discuss about staffing. Staffing is the management function devoted to acquiring, training, appraising and compensating employees. In effect, all managers are human resource managers, although human resource specialists may perform some of these activities in large organizations. Solid staffing practices can mold a company's workforce into a motivated and committed team capable of managing change effectively and achieving the organizational objectives. Staffing refers to the managerial function of employing and developing human resources for carrying out the various managerial and non-managerial activities in an organization. This involves determining the manpower requirement and the methods of recruiting, selecting, training and developing the people for various positions created in the organization. This in fact happens to be a continuous process because the organization need to retain and update its personnel is a never-ending exercise. The manager have to keep a regular watch on the number and composition of the personnel needed by the organization because the requirement of manpower keep on changing and expanding with the expansion of activities and additions of new departments and work units. Not only that, at any point of time, some people will be leaving, retiring, getting promotion or transferred. The vacancy thus created have to be filled up. Understanding the fundamentals of staffing can help any manager lead more effectively. Every manager should understand the following three principles. All managers are human resource managers. Employees are much more important assets than buildings or equipments. Good employees give a company the competitive edge. Human resource management is a matching process. It must match the needs of the organization with the needs of the employee. Let us now move on to our next topic, that is human resource management. The quality and effectiveness of the organization is determined by the quality of the people that are employed. Success for most organizations depends on finding the employees with the skills to successfully perform the tasks required to attain the company's strategic goals. Management decisions and processes for dealing with employees are critical to ensure that the organization gets and keeps the right staff. In order to get the most out of staff, human resource management integrates all processes, programs and systems in an organization designed to ensure that employees are acquired and used in an effective way. The organization is impacted by its environment. By paying careful attention to these facts, an organization can recruit competent, high-performing employees who are capable of sustaining their performance over the long term. This is because that whatever happens to an organization ultimately influences what happens to its employees. HRM not only can be a strategic tool, it can also help establish an organization sustainable competitive advantage. Retaining good workers has become even more important as it is projected that there will be a shortage of nearly 1 million workers in Canada in the future. Achieving competitive success through people requires a fundamental change in how managers think about their employees and how they view the work relationship. It involves seeing employees as partners, not just as costs to bet, minimize or avoid it. And as shown in the example in e-business and management, banks are outsourcing HR transactions so that its HR energies are focused on working with business leaders to achieve business results. Law and regulation at the federal, state and local levels regulate how companies conduct staffing. Title VII of the 1964 Civil Rights Act banned most discriminatory hiring practices. Three sensitive areas of legal concern that manager must comply with are equal opportunity, affirmative action and sexual harassment described in the following points. These areas as well as other laws impact all human resource practices. Equal employment opportunity. Individuals covered under Equal Employment Opportunity (EEO) laws are protected from illegal discrimination which occurs when people who share a certain characteristic such as race, age or gender are discriminated against because of the characteristic People who have the designated characteristic are called the protected class. Federal laws have identified the following characteristic for protection: race, ethnic origin, color, for example, African, American, Hispanic, Native American, Asian, gender, women including those who are pregnant, age, individual over 40, individual with disabilities, physical and mental, military experience, Vietnam era, veterans, religion, special beliefs and practices. The main purpose of the EEO laws is to ensure that everyone has an equal opportunity of getting a job or being promoted at work. Affirmative action. While EEO laws aim to ensure equal treatment at work, affirmative action requires the employer to make an extra effort to hire and promote people who belong to a protected group. Affirmative action includes taking specific action designed to eliminate the present effects of past discrimination. Employees are also protected by the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission (EEOC), which was established through the 1964 Civil Rights Act, Title VII. The scope of authority of the EEOC has been expanded so that today it carries the major enforcement authority for the following laws. Civil Rights Act of 1964 prohibits discrimination on the basis of race, color, religion, national origin or sex. Civil Rights Act of 1991 reaffirms and tightens prohibition of discrimination, permits individuals to sue for punitive damages in cases of intentional discrimination and shifts the burden of proof to the employer. Equal Pay Act of 1963 prohibits pay differences based on sex for equal work. Pregnancy Discrimination Act of 1978 prohibits discrimination or dismissal of women because of pregnancy alone and protects job security during maternity leaves. American with Disabilities Act prohibits discrimination against individuals with physical or mental disabilities or the chronologically ill and requires that reasonable accommodation be provided for the disabled. Vocational Rehabilitation Act prohibits discrimination on the basis of physical or mental disabilities and requires that employees be informed about affirmative action plans. Let us now discuss about staffing process. It is a term that refers to the management of employees' schedules when an adequate number of applications or names of interested candidates have been collected through the recruitment exercises. Selection process starts. Selection refers to the process of choosing the most suitable person from among the list of interested candidates. It involves going through the qualification and experience of all candidates and matching them with the expectation for the job as to decide on the most suitable ones for the job. The entire process goes through a number of steps which may be called as selection procedure. As stated above, the selection procedure consists of a number of steps in logical order to identify the candidates who are to be finally appointed. These steps are application forms. Application forms provide a record of salient information about application for position and also furnish data for personal research. Interviewers may use responses from the application for follow-up questions during an interview. These forms range from requests for basic information such as names, addresses and telephone numbers to comprehensive personal history profiles detailing applicants' education, job experience, skills and accomplishment. According to the Uniform Election Guidelines of the EEOC, which establish standards that employees must meet to prevent disparate or unequal treatment, any employment requirement is a test, even a job application. As a result, EEOC consideration application forms are interrelated and managers should make sure that their application forms do not ask questions that are irrelevant to job success, or these questions may create an adverse impact on protected groups. For example, employers should not ask whether an applicant rents or owns his or her own home, because an applicant's response may adversely affect his or her chances at the job. Minorities and women may be less likely to own a woman, and home ownership is probably unrelated to job performance. On the other hand, asking about the CPA exam for an accounting position is appropriate even if only one half of all female or minority applicants have taken the exam versus 9/10 of male applicants. A quick test for disparate impact suggested by the Uniform Selection Guidelines is the 4/5 rules. Generally, a disparate impact is assumed when the proportion of protected class applicants who are actually hired is less than 80%, 4/5 of the proportion of the majority group applicants selected. For example, assume that an employer has 100 white male applicants for an entry-level job and hires one half of them for a selection ratio of 1:2 or 50%, 50 by 100. The 4/5 rule does not mean that the employers must hire 4/5 or 40 protected class members. Instead, the rule means that the employer selection ratio of protected class applicants should be at least 4/5 of that of the majority groups. After receiving the application from the candidates through recruitment process, the same must be examined to decide which ones deserve to be considered and followed up. Normally, the candidates are asked to apply in their own handwriting on a plain paper. Sometimes a job advertisement mentions the particulars to be given in the application. In many cases, the candidates are required to apply in the prescribed form of the company, containing particulars of name, address, nationality, religion, mother tongue, date and place of birth, marital status, education and training, employment history, references, etc. Screening the application. Screening exercise involves checking the contents of the application so as to ascertain whether or not the minimum eligibility condition in respect of age, experience, qualification and skills are fulfilled by the candidates who have applied for the job. Screening is usually done by a senior officer of the company or by a screening committee. The purpose of screening is to prepare a list of eligible candidates who are to be evaluated further. Candidates not eligible are thereby excluded from further consideration. Testing. Testing is another method of selecting competent future employees. Although testing use has ebbed and flowed during the past 2 decades, recent studies reveal that more than 80% of employees use testing as part of their selection process use of them. As a result, a manager needs to make sure that the tests measure only job-relevant dimensions of applicants. Most tests focus on specific job-related aptitudes and skills such as math or motor skills. Typical types of exams include the following. Integrity tests measure factors such as dependability, carefulness, responsibility and honesty. These tests are used to learn about the attitudes of applicants toward a variety of job-related subjects. Since the passage of the Employee Polygraph Protection Act in 1988, polygraph lie detector tests have been effectively banned in employment situation. In their place, attitude tests are being used to assess attitudes about honesty and presumably on the job behaviors. Personality tests measure personality or temperament. These tests are among the least reliable. Personality tests are problematic and not very valid because little or no relationship exists between personality and performance. Knowledge tests are more reliable than personality tests because they measure an applicant's comprehension or knowledge of a subject. A math test for an accountant and a weather test for a pilot are examples. Human relations specialists must be able to demonstrate that the test reflects the knowledge needed to perform the job. For example, a teacher hired to teach math should not be giving a keyboarding test. Performance stimulation tests are increasing in popularity. Based on job analysis data, they more easily meet the requirement of job relatedness than written tests. Performance simulation tests are made up of actual job behaviors. The best known performance simulation test is known as work sampling, and other credible simulation processes are performed at assessment centers. An assessment is a selection technique that examines candidates' handling of stimulated job situation and evaluates a candidate's potential by observing his or her performance in experiential activities designed to stimulate daily work. Selection interview. Interview is the most important part of the selection procedure. It serves as a means of checking the information given in the application form and making an overall assessment of the candidate's suitability for the job. In an interview, the candidate has a face-to-face interaction with the employer or representative of the employer where they try to judge the ability of the candidate. They also get an opportunity to go into the details of the candidate's background, which helps a lot in assessing the candidate's suitability. Interviews are popular because of their flexibility. They can be adapted to unskilled, skilled, managerial and staff employees. They also allow a two-way exchange of information where interviewers can learn about the applicant and the applicant can learn about the employer. Interviews do have some shortcomings, however. The most noticeable flaws are in the areas of reliability and validity. Good reliability means that the interpretation of the interview result does not vary from interviewer to interviewee. Reliability is improved when identical questions are asked. The validity of interview is often questionable because few departments use standardized questions. Managers can boost the reliability and validity of selection interviews by planning the interviews, establishing rapid closing the interview with time for questions, and reviewing the interview as soon as possible after its conclusion. Checking references. In addition to the requisite educational qualification, skills and experience, it is expected that the candidates who are to be considered for employment must have other qualities like balanced temperament, honesty, loyalty, etc. These qualities cannot be judged on the basis of any test. Therefore, information is obtained and verified from the heads of educational institutions where the candidates have studied or from the person whose names are given by the candidates as referee or from their previous employers. For certain jobs, like the job of a cashier or a security guard, reliability is a very important job requirement. Therefore, references are required to be contacted to ensure that person can be relied upon. In case of experienced employees, their previous employers can also be contacted for this purpose. Medical examination of the candidates. Candidates finally selected for the job are asked to undergo medical examination to see whether the selected candidates are physically fit for the job. A proper medical examination ensures higher standard of health of the employees and their physical fitness, which in turn reduces the labor turnover, absenteeism and accidents. The medical examination would also reveal whether he or she suffers from any illness which can be cured, example, poor eyesight, etc. Medical test is essential for certain types of job, as in the case of police and army, where physical fitness is very important. For certain categories of jobs, like the job of driver, proper eyesight is very much essential. Issue of appointment letter. Candidates finally selected are offered to join the organization for which a formal appointment letter is issued containing the nature of job, the remuneration, pay scale and other terms and conditions relating to employment. Usually a reasonable time is given to the candidates to join the organization. Though a number of steps in the selection procedure have been listed, all the steps need not be followed in all cases. For example, for employing casual workers on daily wages, simply an interview by a company's officer is sufficient.
What is staffing? Staffing refers to the managerial function of employing and developing human resources for carrying out the various managerial and non-managerial activities in an organization. This involves determining the manpower requirement and the methods of recruiting, selecting, training and developing the people for various positions created in the organization. Staffing is a continuous process. This is because the organization's need to retain and update its personnel is a never-ending exercise. When does staffing begin? After planning and selection of the organization structure, the next step in the management process is to fill the various posts provided in the organization. This is termed as the management of staffing function. In the simplest terms, staffing is putting people to jobs. Staffing begins with workforce planning and includes other functions like selection, recruitment training, development, promotion, compensation, and performance appraisal of the workforce.
Let us now move on to our next topic, that is training and development. Human resource management, training and development is a field which is concerned with organizational activity aimed at bettering the performance of individuals and groups in organizational settings. It has been known by several names including human resource development and learning and development. Human resource development was rejected by academics who objected to the idea that people were resources, an idea that they felt to be demeaning to the individual. Eventually, the CIPD settled upon learning and development, although that was itself not free from problems, learning being an overgeneral and ambiguous name. Moreover, the field is still widely known as by the other names. Training and development, TND, encompasses three main activities: training, education, and development. Training for employment is very important. In a modern economy like our own, the nature of work is constantly changing. New technologies mean that new work skills are constantly required. To succeed in business or in a career, people will need to be very flexible about where they work and how they work, and to constantly change the range of skills they use at work. There are basically two types of training: on-the-job training. Employees develop and improve their work skills whilst actually doing the job in question. For example, word processor operators rapidly improve their skills by constant practice. A supermarket till operator quickly learns effective practice by working alongside a more skilled mentor. Of the job training, employers will often encourage the employees to develop their skills through off-the-job training courses. For example, a trainee may be allowed to attend a day release course at the local college. This might apply to a wide range of different skills including hairdressing, banking, insurance, electrical work and plumbing. Induction training. Induction training is a type of training given as an initial preparation upon taking up a post. To help new people get to work initially after joining a firm, a brief program of this training can be delivered to the new worker as a way to help integrate the new employee, both as a productive part of the business and socially among other employees. It often contains information dealing with the layout of the firm's operating facility, health and safety measures and security systems. An attempt may also be made to introduce the individual to key employees and give an impression of the culture of the organization. It is a critical time for the employer to gain a commitment from the employee and the latter to understand the expectation, targets, and so on. The induction provides a really good opportunity to socialize and brief the newcomer on the company's overall strategy, performance standards, etc. Induction training should, according to TPI theory, include development of theoretical and practical skills, but also meet interaction needs that exist among the new employees. This training is done systematically and is often the responsibility of the immediate supervisor to make sure that it's done smoothly. If carefully done, it will save time and cost in terms of faulty products or poor services, etc. It is imperative that manager plays the authority and power to make sure that the new employees is carefully helped to adjust to the new work surroundings and culture. Just as in schools, sometimes the workplace may have bullies who may give the new employees the wrong impression of the company or organization at first. These programs can play a critical role under the socialization to the organization. Vestibule training. In the early 1800s, factory schools were created due to the Industrial Revolution, in which workers were trained in classrooms within the factory walls. The apprentice system was inadequate due to the number of learners that had to be trained as the machines of the Industrial Revolution increased the ability of the factory to produce goods. Factory owners needed trained workers quickly because there was a large demand for the produced goods. Towards the end of the 1800s, a method that combined the benefits of the classroom with the benefits of on-the-job training called vestibule training became a popular form of training. The classroom was located as close as condition allowed to the department for which the workers were being trained. It was furnished with the same machines as used in production. There were normally 6 to 10 workers per trainer who were skilled workers or supervisor from the company. There are many advantages of vestibule training. The workers are trained as if on the job, but it did not interfere with the more vital tasks of production. This method attempts to duplicate the on-the-job situation in a company classroom. Machines, equipments, tools, systems which are very much identical with works are generally kept in the company training center for the purpose of training. It is very much useful for the semi-skilled, skilled and executives. With the help of this training process, at a time so many trainees can be trained like train clerks, bank tellers, machine operators, inspectors, testers, etc. Vestibule training is a method of job education where educational facilities approximate real working condition and are equipped with actual production machinery. In a typical vestibule training situation used by a manufacturing business, less than 10 trainees would be supervised by one skilled trainer, and the training provided stimulates on-the-job training without compromising production speed or quality. Apprenticeship training and internship training. An internship is a system of on-the-job training that allows learners to gauge their interest in a chosen professional area. Internship also provide real-world experiences instead of second-hand experiences. For example, instead of studying forms in a book, an internship may allow an individual the chance to actually get their hands dirty on a real organic farm while planting, harvesting, working with livestock and much more. While people have different reasons for taking on an internship, the most common reasons are as follows: to gain insider knowledge in a field, to gain college credits, to fulfill a specific college major requirements, to decide if a specific career is the right path, to learn skills from someone experienced in a field, to gain more confidence in current abilities, to learn how to apply skills learned in books or a class, to meet others in a field, to enhance a resume or college application. Some internship is paid, usually a small stipend, some are unpaid, and others provide perks such as room and board but no monetary rewards. Some internship are short, lasting only a few weeks, but others may be as long as a year. Beyond skills and knowledge, internship may offer college students credits that account toward course completion, resume experience and references. Sometimes internships even translate into long-term work or a real career with a company. The individual who is taking part in the internship provides labor, time and hopefully commitment to the field and help to the company or place they are interning for. Once in a while, the terms apprenticeship and internship are intermixed. That works in some cases as an apprenticeship is also a system of on-the-job training. However, one difference you sometimes see is that an apprentice and employer may work out an agreement where the apprentice works for said employer for an accurate amount of time after the training period ends. Apprenticeship is a system of training a new generation of practitioners of a structured competency-based set of skills. Apprenticeships range from craft occupations or trades to those seeking a professional license to practice in a regulated profession. Apprentices or in early modern uses, practices or proteges built their careers from apprenticeships. Most of their training is done while working for an employer who helps apprentices learn their trade or profession in exchange for the continuing labor for an agreed period after they have achieved measurable competencies. Now in the end, let us summarize what we have learned in this lecture. Staffing is a term that refers to the management of employee schedules. Human resource management is the management of an organization, workforce or human resource. Management decision and processes for dealing with employees are critical to ensure that the organization gets and keeps the right staff. The entire process goes through a number of steps which may be called as selection procedure. Training and development (T&D) encompasses three main activities: training, education and development.